On the 14th of December 2025, Sydney's world-famous Bondi Beach was the site of one of Australia's deadliest attacks in nearly 3 decades. A mass shooting during the first day of the holy Jewish festival of Hanukkah's celebrations. A celebration attended by members of the Jewish community, over 1,000 of them, and local residents as well. The shooting left 15 people dead, including a child. It also left dozens injured. The massacre is being treated as an act of terrorism, and the 2 gunmen responsible have been identified as well. They are a father and son duo, Sajid Akram and Naved Akram, from Pakistan, aged approximately 50 and 24. The identification of Naved and Sajid has drawn international attention to Pakistan-linked backgrounds surfacing yet again in a major terror attack. For over 3 decades, terror has scarred India, not as headlines but as lived history. In 1993, Mumbai was ripped apart by serial bomb blasts in which more than 250 people were killed. In 1999, Indian Airlines flight IC-814 was hijacked and flown to Kandahar. 2005, Mumbai's local train, city's lifeline, turning into moving coffins. More than 200 killed in that terror attack. Then, of course, there was 26/11, the worst of them all. From the Delhi bomb blast to the parliament attack, from Pahalgam to Pulwama, the pattern has been relentless, and terrorists all from Pakistan, a country where terrorists are trained, there is ideological indoctrination, and there's infrastructure is in place, and the whole thing is supported by the Pakistani army. So when India speaks about terrorism, it speaks from experience, not theory. The world knows UN-designated terrorists, globally banned organizations, training camps named in dossiers, evidence shared again and again, warnings issued, and yet the infrastructure endures. So when Pakistan is repeatedly flagged as the global epicenter of terror networks, it's a documented reality. It's a global threat. And the Bondi Beach massacre now stands as another global wake-up call on Pakistan being the global radical headquarters, and one that the world cannot afford to ignore anymore. Tonight, we have N.K. Sood, former RAW officer, joining us. We have Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, as well, defense and geopolitical expert. We have Dr. Abhinav Pandya, terrorism and radicalization expert. We will begin with N.K. Sood, former RAW officer. This is what India has been talking about time and again. This is what even Israel has been warning Australia time and again. And that warning is not just for Australia, it's for the entire Western world. You need to relook at your immigration policies. You need to relook at how you deal with this kind of radical terror. And yet again, one of the safest places in the world, a world tourism hotspot like Bondi Beach, has become the center of the latest, most dastardly terror attack. Mr. N.K. Sood?
Actually, I would blame Pakistan for this. I would directly blame the United States and Europe for all these terror activities that are generated against India and Israel. If they control their policies, you see, Donald Trump has been inviting Pakistan Prime Minister, he's inviting Pakistan Army Chief to US, and he's encouraging them by inviting them to US. Whole problem with the world is that the US and the West is silent, you know. They will just issue a statement that this thing happened and we are sorry. Sorry is not enough. They will not mend their ways unless they are attacked, you know.
Yeah.
When 9/11 happened, after that US started listening to India. We had been telling US that these terrorists are based in the US and the US just supporting that. But they didn't take any action.
Yeah, Lieutenant Sanjay Kulkarni is talking about 9/11, but from 9/11 to 26/11, India has been reminding the US and the world, and yet there's been such hypocrisy in heeding India's words, isn't it, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni?
Definitely, Krishna. First and foremost, heartfelt condolences to those who have lost their lives. I think since yesterday, their lives, losing lives seems to be increasing. It's gone to over 15. And wishing speedy recovery to those who are injured. I understand over 25 are injured. Having said that, I think it's only 9/11 that probably America seems to be realizing that, yes, there is something called terror. It's only when Al-Qaeda hit them. India is telling them at the top and screaming and telling the entire world that, look, Pakistan is the hub of terrorism. Pakistan is the one using terrorism as an instrument of state policy. And in Pakistan, even Musharraf has been saying, "Ye to hamare hero hain, ye to hamare hero hain." So if that be so, I fail to understand. Even Trump, in his first term, stated in no uncertain terms that Pakistan is the hub. Mrs. Clinton has been saying so again and again that if you have snakes in your backyard expecting only the neighbors to be bitten, it's impossible. They will strike you also one of these days. But today, you find the same president of America is entertaining them. You find that despite even Israel in UN Assembly, after the Hamas thing, stated in no uncertain terms that Pakistan is the hub of terrorism. In UN Assembly, and not just this much, Netanyahu warned Albanese in August of this year, stating that, look, there is something happening, will happen there. And of course, now this was something was to happen. I think father and son, duo in Australia, being brought up in Australia.
Yeah.
No, and after that incident which happened in 1996 at Port Arthur, where almost 6.5 lakh weapons were withdrawn,
Yeah.
with a new law on national weapons. And still, this family had 6 weapons. Imagine 6
Yeah.
weapons. And that is what they have done on a day
Yeah.
which is again very, very sad.
And in a country which does not have weapons proliferation like the way it happens in the US, we know there's a lot of weapons control in Australia, and yet they're able to get their hands on so many weapons. Mr. NK, so I have to ask you this. We've just been through the Delhi terror attack, which again leads all the way back to Pakistan. We've been telling the world every single time that this happens in India, and then again during the Delhi terror attack too, you had world leaders across the board sending condolences to India, just the way they've sent their condolences to this as well. But if there is concerted effort to isolate Russia for a war in Ukraine, if there's concerted efforts where the Western nations can get together and sanction countries, why can't they do that against Pakistan? Because at the end of the day, the evil is right there in their backyard.
Actually, I think it is the different attitude that India will have to adopt, and they are adopting it. You see, unknown gunmen are active there. Who is supporting them? I would like to say. But they are being eliminating the people who are indulging in terrorism. And I tell you one thing, that terrorism is being shifted from Pakistan to Bangladesh also. But in Bangladesh also, KGB, RAW and Mossad, they have joined hands to deal with the terrorists. At least 20 terrorists or ISI supported people or CIA supported people have been eliminated. How they have been eliminated, I wouldn't like to say here. But the thing is that India will have to take the game in the backyard. We'll have to eliminate them as this Israel is doing. Because only 2 countries in the world who are being targeted by terrorists, that is India and Israel.
Absolutely. Dr. Abhinav Pandya, terrorism radicalization expert, is also with us. Dr. Abhinav Pandya, thank you for being with us. Look at the situation. You have Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel always talks about these lone wolf attacks. This is a lone wolf attack. This is something that Israel has warned Australia repeatedly with the rise in anti-Semitic attacks in Australia over the last 2 years. This again goes all the way back to Pakistan. How do nations need to be prepared to deal with something like this? Where do these lone wolf attacks, because there is no prior history of being part of any terrorist outfits or organizations. These are people who are radicalized online and then made into soldiers of terrorism.
Thank you very much for inviting me. First of all, I would like to say that I think it's time we move beyond this terminology of lone wolf attacks. I mean, these are not exactly lone wolf attacks. They are very, I would say, under the cover global networks. And this is a modus operandi in which ISIS has specialized. And you can say it's some kind of a loosely fragmented global jihadist network in which, these networks operate on dark net and deep net, where you have sufficient material available for radicalization, indoctrination. And then apart from the online material and online networks, there is always an on-ground facilitating network or the jihadist ecosystem, which complements it, which works in tandem with these networks. So I think, we should not exactly, confine ourselves to calling these as just lone wolf attacks. I mean, certainly there are much bigger players behind and much bigger global networks behind the radicalization of these 2 Pakistani immigrants in Australia. And secondly, it's not that this guy did not have a history. In 2019, he was flagged, and I guess he was allowed to go free despite coming across various, I would say, instances of his association with ISIS And the very fact that his association with ISIS had come to limelight should have been enough to alarm the governments in Australia. But the problem with some of these Western countries is that that they have this very, I would say, deadly syndrome of left liberalism and over appeasement of these Islamist radicals, because of which they're always very hesitant in taking sufficient action. And the last part that you asked me about was how to tackle these. I guess the only answer to tackle these issues is the complete overhauling and, I would say, rejuvenation of your intelligence networks. You require to deal with this, this new, I would say, very ISIS style, global jihadist, terror or modus operandi.
Right.
You need to have a cooperation and coordination at the global level between various countries on counterterrorism issues.
Yeah.
So these are my short answers to your questions, but definitely I can expand if you want.
Yeah. Surely, Lieutenant Sanjay Kulkarni, Dr. Abhinav Pandey makes a very valid point. Is that you need coordinated global action, and for that, countries need to, not be in denial anymore about about this threat. That is not going away anytime soon, unless and otherwise you have something like the Interpol. You need to have something where a global network where nations are coordinating, because this is going to come. Today, now on the 14th of December, it is Australia. On another date, it could be any other nation in the West, any country in Europe or UK or the US. That is the need of the hour. And more importantly, all these countries need to relook at their immigration laws. How can they let somebody into the country and continue being in the country when clearly there's been a prior association with ISIS?
Absolutely, Krishna. There's no denying the fact this time we caught the bull by the horn. 30% immigration in Australia. 30%, just about a lakh of Jews in Australia, and just about 2,000 of these under Bondi Beach, where these are blue jacket savers, lifesavers are there in numbers, because this is the time when they all are there. Despite that, imagine striking as what happened in Pahalgam. They pick and chose Hindus. And similarly over here, they ensured that these people were all Jews, knocked them off. And again, both in Pakistani. Pakistan hand in Pahalgam and Pakistani hand in Bondi in Australia on the Sydney beach. So you imagine what kind of thing. Until and unless we now need to have five eyes working entirely against terrorism. Terrorism has no religion. It's damn good silver lining. There's a number follower of Islam. The killers, followers of Islam. Australian imams have got together to condemn this particular act. I think it's time that the Muslim community comes out openly that, look, we do not support terror. Fence sitters are not acceptable. They must come out openly and say, we condemn. And I'm glad the Australian imams have come out openly and said, we condemn this act. Until and unless people come out openly against this kind of a terror act,
Right.
because terror has no religion. What is all this going on? And when being warned is foreseeable, which was totally avoidable. The Prime Minister also needs to introspect as to why not from August till December, what actions were taken to ensure that this kind of thing don't happen.
Yeah,
When they know this is likely to happen.
One is, the Muslim community coming out openly and decrying and ensuring that, they have nothing to do with terror. Terror has no religion. But Dr. Abhinav Pandya, be it the Pahalgam terror attack or the Bondi Beach terror attack, it was the community that was out roaming in the open that was targeted by terrorists from Pakistan. The fact of the matter is that if there is a radicalization headquarters in this world, it is Pakistan, isn't it? I mean, they house all kinds of terror groups across the spectrum, and they continue to house them, and they continue to support them as well. If this doesn't qualify for isolation, I don't know what does. As far as, just tell us, is there any other bigger terror haven than Pakistan for radicalization?
Well, Pakistan has emerged as the most successful experiment of working with terror groups and raising, nurturing, orchestrating, and I would say, utilizing the jihadist ecosystem across the world. And I guess, first of all, we need to understand the relationship between the Pakistani state and some of these jihadist Islamist groups. So this relationship has a very complex and a nuanced nature. It's very task-based. For example, you have groups like Lashkar, Jaish, and Hizbul Mujahideen, which work on a very regular, systematic basis with Pakistan's ISI because they are Kashmir-centric groups. But with the other groups like ISKP or ISIS, Pakistan's intelligence would have a different kind of a relationship. If they want to orchestrate or execute some terror attack and they want their name completely out of it, then they would want to do it through ISIS or ISKP. And going a step further, if they want a terror attack to be done and without any even traces of their, I would say, association with that, then they would like to utilize the lone wolf channel of the global networks. So I guess we need to understand that. And certainly, I agree with you that Pakistan is the global factory of jihad, and it has housed all kinds of terrorist and Islamist actors. Look at Pakistan's history. So we have prepared a dossier of Pakistan's involvement in global terror attacks, not in India, but Pakistan's associations with terror attacks and terrorist groups and Islamist movements in other parts of the world. The dossier is available on our website, Usana's Foundation's website. And you can see, like, there will be umpteen number of examples. For example, the transatlantic shoe bomber case, Pakistan was involved. Omar Sheikh Saeed, the man who was released with Azhar Masood, he was involved in Chechnya. In fact, Masood Azhar is the fellow who went to UK and he brought jihad to UK. I'm not saying this. In fact, a newspaper like Guardian, which is known for its left liberal voices, they have reported this in a major story long back that Masood Azhar went to the UK and he delivered lectures at the 40 Deobandi mosques, and he institutionalized, he deeply embedded this, I would say, the jihadist ecosystem in UK. He went to South Africa. Masood Azhar, he raised funds from South Africa. He went to Zimbabwe, raised funds from there. He had major dealings with the Sudanese and Somalian jihadist groups. So Pakistan is involved everywhere. You look at Lashkar, their fighters are fighting in Syria. Even the recent October 7 Hamas attack.
Right.
Can you imagine who was the person who signed the fatwa as a religious authority? It was Masood Azhar who signed the fatwa. So Pakistan has links with different groups, with Al-Qaeda, ISKP, with Kashmir-centric groups. It is a global jihadist factory, but unfortunately, even now the world community doesn't understand it, and sufficient action has
That is
not
the
been
tragedy
taken.
of it all,
Besides, the
isn't it?
world community, even our system, our national security establishment has not been able to fully understand Pakistan and its systems.
Yeah, that is the tragedy of it all, isn't it? NK Sood, tell us, how many dossiers were made like this in RAW, for how many years, and still, the word is yet to be out. Still, India's words are not taken for what their worth is.
I think hundreds of dossiers are prepared and they're shared with the US and other Western countries. But they didn't act. They were very sympathetic. That's a different thing. But they didn't act. They started acting after 9/11. If we want to stop this terrorism, then I think it is time now that this terrorist group should repeat 9/11 again. They should repeat 9/11 again and again. Then only the West will understand. They won't understand. And if you see that, if you believe that this Muslim Ummahs, they will stand up and criticize them, that is not going to serve any purpose. They will never do. They will only give us lip support, but otherwise they will not act. It is their support only that the terrorists are being groomed in Pakistan or other countries. If Donald Trump, he can go to Syria and meet ISIS chief, who is now the president of Syria. Who brought him to power? It is Turkey and the US. They brought him to power because they wanted to defeat Russia over there. But now we are acting. We are acting on our own. We are acting in consonance with this Israeli Mossad and KGB. That's why, an agreement has been decided with Russia that they will be posting their people in India. They are the intelligence people. They are technical people who will provide us information and share information with us.
Right.
This has to be done. We will have to do it ourselves. We will not have to ask US. We cannot depend on US. We cannot. And you see, the US president is meeting Pakistan Prime Minister, is meeting Pakistan Army chief. What they are discussing? Business? Why they don't discuss terrorism? Because they are not bothered with terrorism. They are not affected. ISIS is not a major concern for them. For them, the major concern is Al-Qaeda, who operates in Europe. ISIS operates mostly in the Gulf. And if Pakistan intelligence agencies, these terrorist groups are there, they are involved in India. So their agendas are separate.
Yeah. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, you have both India and Australia who are part of the Quad along with the US and Japan. There are so many global groupings in which all the affected nations are part of, and yet there is this deafening silence. And more importantly, Mr. Sood is pointing out, it is appalling when you see the U.S. President hosting, the Pakistani army chief of all people. Meeting the Prime Minister is one thing, but hosting the army chief, calling him a great man. This just makes the fact that whatever statement, whenever the U.S. offers condolences to India, it's not taking India seriously.
Absolutely. This is what emboldens the people in Pakistan. This is what makes them, and that is the reason why Pakistan is using terrorism as an instrument of state policy. They're being used all over. The same president, just about a few years back, condemned and said Pakistan is stabbing. Pakistan is doing all, they misuse the funds released. And the same president today is calling him over at White House for lunch and dinner. So you find this kind of hypocrisy which is there. Of course, not the West. It isn't that the intelligence isn't flowing. Intelligence does flow. It isn't that we don't know what's going on, but it's very difficult to pinpoint where it is. We've been doing all these operations, when we get information, most of the time it is jungle bashing. It's just going around everywhere, not knowing where to go. The specific information doesn't come. And therefore, it's very important the world over, all of us must get united on one issue, that terrorism has no religion. Terrorism has to be finished. That's it. No ifs and no buts. Whoever it may be, whichever religion they may be. It is unfortunate that a particular religion seems to be more involved into it, but irrespective of whatever it is, we get on, catch the bull by the horn, until and unless we all decide, all countries must decide unilaterally that yes, and we will ensure the complete elimination of terrorism. If that is not done, if it is selective, if someone like Musharraf and all these people, even Asim Munir would say, well, one man's terrorist, the other man is freedom fighter. If these kind of hypocritical statements, double speaks are done, then it will never end. If a particular group is a terrorist group, you have Hafiz Saeed, you have the other guy, Masood Azhar.
Right.
They got millions of dollars on their head. And despite that, look at the way with freedom they move around in Pakistan. What does this indicate? You see the kind of funerals that are attended after Operation Sindoor, who all attended the funerals of these people. So this is all clear. There is no question. All of them are terrorists and all of them must be killed. And that's the only way. A dead terrorist is a good terrorist.
Right, fair enough. We will leave it at that. Completely out of time here on the conversation. N.K. Sood, former RAW officer, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, defense and geopolitical expert, Dr. Abhinav Pandya, terrorism and radicalization expert. Thank you all of you for taking time out to be with us here